The first day I entered the palace I divined for myself. The system displayed, nothing to do, just lie down and win. Believed it. From then on I started a life of eating, sleeping and being a salted fish. A selection? Not going. Pay respects to the Empress? Feigning illness. The Emperor is calling for concubines? A series of sneezes and runny noses all arranged. The concubines in the harem fought to the death. I slept soundly in the small dilapidated courtyard next to the cold palace. The only annoyance was that the imperial kitchen's meals became more and more perfunctory. Vegetables and tofu. Tofu and vegetables. My face turned green from eating it. Until that day, the noble consort's Persian cat went missing. The entire palace was in a frenzy searching for it. The noise disturbed my nap. With my harem mess, I pushed open the creaking broken courtyard gate. I casually picked up a branch and drew a few lines on the ground. Go to the southeast corner of the imperial garden. Look in the crack of the third layer of the rockery. The passing palace maids and eunuchs looked at me like I was an idiot. I yawned and retreated back into the courtyard to sleep. Half an hour later, the noble consort holding the found cat stood at my courtyard entrance. Her face was like an overturned pallet. I rubbed my eyes. I divined it. The next day, my lunch had an extra chicken leg. A few days later, noble consort Lu, full of righteous indignation, stormed into my small dilapidated courtyard with her entourage. Was it you? Her meticulously cared for peonies had all withered overnight. Petals littered the ground. I was squatting in the corner studying ants moving house. Without even looking up, 3 feet under the root of the flower in the southwest corner there's a little effigy buried. Noble consort Lu, half believing, ordered someone to dig. Indeed, a cloth doll filled with needles. Her birth date and time were written on it. Her face turned pale. Who did this? I patted the dirt off my hands. The one in your palace who wears a green skirt and has a mole on her left eyebrow. Noble consort Lu left with her people radiating killing intent. It was said to be an informant sent by a long-hidden rival. My lunch was upgraded. 2 meat dishes and 1 vegetable dish. And a plate of exquisite pastries. Rumors about me began to circulate in the harem. The one by the cold palace is a bit strange. They say she can divine? Must be a guess. The Empress' headache flared up. The imperial physicians were helpless. She couldn't sleep for entire nights due to the pain. Fenji Palace was shrouded in gloom. Someone unable to keep quiet mentioned the one by the cold palace. The head attendant of the Empress personally came. With a scrutinizing gaze, talented lady, soothe the Empress' headache. I was lying on my homemade dilapidated lounge chair basking in the sun. I was too lazy to even lift my eyelids. Under the pillow, there's a jade piece pressed under the pillow, the one carved with a lotus. Take it out and throw it into the lotus pond. The wet nurse returned half believing. The next day, news spread from Fenji Palace. The Empress slept soundly. My headache is gone. My little humble courtyard became lively. Eunuchs and palace maids delivering gifts lined up. Brocade gifted by the Empress. Jade bracelet gifted by the consort. Even the imperial kitchen opened its eyes. My little dining table was more abundant than ever. Braised lion's head, steamed perch, crystal shrimp dumplings. I sighed, patting my round belly. Alas, are the days of lying flat like a salted fish over? HMPH, are the days of lying flat like a salted fish over? Trouble has arrived. Consort Leah's gaze towards me grew increasingly strange. It was a look mixed with apprehension, jealousy and calculation. She accidentally met me in the imperial garden. Smiling insincerely. Consort Su is quite the popular figure now. Even Her Majesty the Empress looks upon you with favor. I lowered my head, staring at a small grass stubbornly pushing through the cracks in the stone slabs. Your ladyship the consort is too kind, it's just good luck. Is that so? The rich fragrance on her body made my nose itch. Then my dear sister helped me calculate. When will I be able to bear a royal son for His Majesty? The surroundings fell silent. All ears were perked. This question was tricky and malicious. If I guessed correctly, it would be spreading heresy. If I guessed incorrectly, it would be deceiving the consort. I sneezed. I rubbed my nose. Your ladyship the consort, why don't you have an imperial physician examine you first? Consort Leah's face changed. What do you mean? I looked innocent. The fragrance on your body, is it mixed with musk and safflower powder? The fragrance on your body? Is it mixed with musk and safflower powder? If you smell it for too long, it might not be easy to conceive. Consort Leah's face instantly turned ashen. She took a step back as if fleeing. She stared at me intently. Her gaze was as if she wanted to devour me alive. That night, the door to my courtyard was pounded thunderously. Several fierce-looking wet nurses barged in. Consort Su, how dare you, to dare poison the consort's incense powder? Come with us. They dragged me away without explanation. Consort Leah's palace was brightly lit. She was reclining on a soft couch. Her face was gloomy. Beside her knelt a trembling palace maid who made incense. Su Xing caught red-handed. What else do you have to say? The palace maid pointed at me and cried. It was her. She ordered me to add something to the consort's incense powder. I yawned. Too rushed from the journey, I am sleepy. Your ladyship the consort. What, trying to beg for mercy? No. I pointed to an inconspicuous black lacquered mother of pearl small box on her dressing table. The contents of that box. You've been using it for a long time, haven't you? Consort Leah's eyes sharpened. What are you trying to say? That bomb. It uses beauty's intoxication flower nectar, a tribute from southern Xinjiang. It does nourish the skin. Paired with the snow ginseng tea you drink daily. Ginseng tea is hot in nature and beauty's intoxication flower nectar is cold. The clash of cold and heat accumulated over time becomes poison. Consort Lu suddenly sat up straight. Nonsense. Imperial physicians. The imperial physicians only check the incense powder. Don't check what you enter daily. Even less would you think these two things would conflict. Have you been having night sweats recently? Feeling restless in the morning and your period is also irregular? Consort Leah's face turned from white to green. She clenched her fists tightly. She didn't speak, but her expression said it all. I sighed. That palace maid who made the incense received 500 taels of silver from her rival. The incense powder contained nothing more than ordinary flower pollen. At most it would cause you to break out in a few red rashes. The one truly harming you is yourself. The room was dead silent. Consort Lu seemed to have lost all her strength. She collapsed onto the couch. She waved her hand. Get out! All of you get out! Consort Lu feigned illness and refused to see anyone. The palace maid who made the incense disappeared without a trace. My lunch portion size increased again, with an extra bowl of bird's nest said to be specially sent as a reward by the Empress. The peaceful days didn't last long. A bigger wave hit. The second prince, while reciting scriptures in the imperial study, suddenly foamed at the mouth and convulsed, and fell unconscious. The entire imperial hospital was alerted, but no signs of poisoning could be found. The emperor was furious, and ordered a thorough investigation. As the investigation progressed, the clues surprisingly pointed to me. A young eunuch confessed, saying he saw me lurking around the imperial study a few days ago, and burying something in the corner. The imperial guards at the corner of my humble courtyard dug up a small wooden effigy filled with silver needles, engraved with the second prince's birth date and time of birth, witchcraft and curses, and plotting to harm a prince. A capital offense. I was chained and dragged before the emperor. In the hall of mental cultivation, the atmosphere was so heavy it could freeze a person to death. The emperor sat on his dragon throne, his face as dark as water. The empress wept beside him. Consort Leah's lips curved into a barely perceptible cold smile. Su Shi, do you know your crime? The chief eunuch shouted in a shrill voice. I knelt on the cold floor tiles. The chains made my wrists ache. I don't know. There are witnesses and evidence. And you still dare to quibble? That wooden effigy is irrefutable proof. I raised my head and looked at the emperor on his high throne. He was also looking at me. His gaze was unfathomable. Your Majesty, my voice was exceptionally clear in the dead silent hall. That wooden effigy is not mine. The birth date and time of birth engraved on it is incorrect. Consort Lu shrieked. Nonsense. The prince's birth date and time of birth. Year Bingyan month Dingyu Day Wechang Hour Jengshen. I calmly recited a string of characters. What was engraved on the effigy was Year Bingyan month Dingyu Day Wushu Hour Gengwu. The hour was off by 1. A collective suppressed gasp echoed through the hall. The empress crying stopped. The emperor's eyes sharpened. The chief eunuch hurriedly picked up the small figure which was used as ironclad evidence to examine it. His face instantly turned pale. This difference of an hour, a world of difference in destiny. Let me continue. If one wants to frame someone, why would they use the wrong birth characters? This framing is too unprofessional. Consort Leah's face turned pale. Quibbling. Who knows if you deliberately wrote the wrong characters? Also, I interrupted her. My gaze turned to the little eunuch who had accused me. You said you saw me burying something in the corner of the imperial study? Yes. Which day? What time? 3 days ago. Yu Shi. I twitched the corner of my mouth. 3 days ago, Yu Shi. I was by the abandoned well behind the cold palace, helping concubine Li find the golden hairpin she dropped. Those present at the time were Granny Zhang from the laundry bureau, and Captain Wang Hu of the 3rd patrol team of the imperial guards who happened to pass by. The emperor can send someone to ask and find out. The little eunuch collapsed on the ground. Your servant misremembered. It was 4 days ago. I smiled. 4 days ago, Eunuch Zhao from the imperial household department brought 3 little eunuchs to deliver winter charcoal to me. They stayed in my small courtyard from Shenxi to Yushi Sankei. They can all testify. I never left the courtyard at all. The little eunuch completely collapsed, trembling like a sieve, unable to utter a word. In the hall of mental cultivation, you could hear a pin drop. The emperor slowly spoke, his voice betraying no emotion. Lady Su, you are indeed very good at calculating. You even calculated the birthday of my imperial son so clearly. I lowered my head, replying to your majesty it wasn't calculated. When the second prince had his full moon celebration, the imperial household department made a record. This servant happened to pass by and glanced at it. I have a good memory, there's nothing I can do. Everyone was speechless for a moment. Consort Leah's face contorted completely. The little eunuch was dragged away. Consort Lu, for her poor management and gullibility, was punished with 3 months of confinement and reflection. I was acquitted, sent back to my humble courtyard. The chief eunuch personally delivered rewards to calm my nerves, and also brought an imperial decree. The emperor's decree is for you to move your residence. Move where? Chinkin Palace side hall. The melon seeds in my hand dropped. Chinkin Palace? The emperor's sleeping quarters? 63. Can I not go? I put on a sad face. This place is quite good quiet. The chief eunuch's face twitched. Your ladyship, please don't make things difficult for this servant. Please don't make things difficult for this servant. The emperor's will is hard to defy. I was forced to move into the side hall of Chinkin Palace. Gilded and magnificent, fragrant and warm and soft. But I felt uneasy all over. Like a salted fish forcibly pulled into a goldfish bowl. The emperor would occasionally come over but wouldn't speak. He would just sit there reviewing memorials or reading. On the other side, I would either doze off or stare out the window in a daze, counting the birds flying by. He came again today. After finishing a pile of memorials, he rubbed his temples and suddenly said, "Cast a divination for me." I was counting the 37th sparrow. I turned my head, what should I divine? His gaze was deep as he looked at me. Divine my empire. My heart skipped a beat, no. Why? Divining the national destiny shortens one's life. I told him the truth. This servant still wants to eat lion's head from the imperial kitchen for a few more years. He was silent for a moment. Then divine for me. Divine what? Divine how long I can live, he paused. The eunuchs and palace maids serving in the hall of mental cultivation instantly knelt down in a row, their heads buried low, not daring to breathe. I sighed. Your Majesty, you want to know this? Speak. Do you really want to know? Speak. Alright, I spread my hands. The divination fee is 1,000 taels of gold. No credit. The emperor seemed to be amused. He stared at me for a long time, then suddenly burst into laughter. His laughter stunned everyone in the hall. What a good awakening. He stopped laughing. His eyes were complex. You have quite the nerve. He didn't force me to divine those deadly things anymore. He just asked me to stay in the side hall, like a mascot, or rather, a decoration that made him feel at ease and peculiar. The atmosphere in the harem completely changed. No one dared to come to me for fortune-telling anymore, and no one dared to provoke me easily. After Consort Lu was unbanned, she became much more restrained. Her gaze at me was still complex, but she no longer dared to make a move. The Empress was very polite to me. Other concubines even avoided the Hall of Heavenly Purity. I became a special existence in the harem, with a name but no rank. My rank as a talented woman was too low, yet I lived in the place closest to the emperor. I didn't compete for favor or cause trouble. My biggest worry each day was whether to eat braised pork or sweet and sour pork ribs for lunch. My life was as plain as if it had been sweetened, and yet a little bit sweet and comfortable, until that news arrived. A severe drought in the southern region, 1,000 miles of barren land and refugees everywhere. The court issued 3 decrees for disaster relief, but it was like a drop in the bucket. The Imperial Observatory observed the stars at night but was at a loss. The common people complained endlessly. There were even rumors that it was the emperor's lack of virtue and a punishment from heaven. The court was in an uproar. Those who advocated war wanted to suppress the refugees. Those who advocated peace wanted to increase taxes for disaster relief. The emperor hadn't slept well for several days. His face was so gloomy it could drip water. The entire imperial palace was shrouded in a low-pressure atmosphere. That night lightning flashed, thunder roared, and rain poured down. The emperor stood at the entrance of the Chinkin Palace. Gazing at the dark rain-swept silhouette, his heart was heavy. I held a freshly baked walnut crisp. Sitting on the warm couch, I was enjoying it immensely. Awake. He suddenly called me. His voice was a little muffled by the rain. My mouth was stuffed full, I said. His voice was deep. Is this natural disaster truly my fault? I swallowed the pastry with difficulty. Took a sip of tea to clear my throat. Emperor. Do you believe those rumors? He was silent. A natural disaster is a natural disaster. I picked up a walnut crisp. What does it have to do with people? Can people control the heavens to rain? He turned around. Sister, his deep gaze fell upon me. The Imperial Observatory says this is divine punishment. I scoffed dismissively. Sister, if they were really that good at reading the heavens, they would have calculated which day it would rain long ago. Why are they still scrambling now? Emperor, then in your opinion, how can this natural disaster be resolved? The one who tied the bell must untie it. Sister, brother, the one who tied the bell must untie it. If the heavens don't rain, then go find the heavens. I said it as a matter of course. The emperor's lips seemed to twitch. How do we find them? I patted the pastry crumbs off my hands, walked to his side, and looked out at the pouring rain. Emperor. Have you ever thought? What? That place in the southern border. Is there something there that has displeased the heavens? He frowned. What do you mean? I am just guessing. I shrugged, just making an analogy. For example, if someone dug a big pit in front of your house and dumped stinky water there every day, would you be happy? You certainly wouldn't be happy. Perhaps in anger. You wouldn't even want to leave your house. The emperor pondered. You mean? I didn't say anything. I immediately distanced myself. It's just that. When something unusual happens, there must be a reason. Such a large area. From drought to barren land, there must be a cause. The next day, the emperor secretly dispatched 3 groups of trusted confidants to the southern border, focusing on investigating any abnormal changes in the mountains and terrain, whether there were any large-scale construction projects, especially any digging of pits. An urgent report was sent back. In the hall of mental cultivation, the emperor looked at the secret report, silent for a long time. His expression was unpredictable. Finally, he let out a long sigh. Brother, it's really something that has displeased the heavens. It's really something that has displeased the heavens. Sister, the secret report said that the largest river in the southern border, the upper reaches of the Kanglin River, years ago, local powerful families, in order to divert water to irrigate their 10,000 mu of fertile land, privately built a huge stone dam across the river, almost cutting off nearly 70% of the water flow of the Kanglin River. The downstream dozen or so prefectures and counties Since then the water volume has drastically decreased. The area that was originally crisscrossed with waterways has gradually become arid. This year there is a severe drought. Adding insult to injury, the downstream completely dried up, causing widespread suffering. And that powerful family, sister, she is a distant cousin of consort Leah's family. Under the guise of the consort's name, they acted with impunity in the village and no one dared to intervene. The imperial decree was issued as fast as thunder. The private dam was forcibly blown up. The private dam was forcibly blown up. The waters of the Kanglin River surged downstream. The powerful family was raided and imprisoned. Lu Guini was implicated, stripped of her title, demoted to a concubine and confined for a year. The Lu family's influence was purged. Months later a timely rain fell across the southern border. The drought eased and the displaced people returned home. A disaster that could have shaken the foundation of the nation was dispelled into nothingness. The emperor hosted a small banquet in the Qingqin palace. Only he and I were there and the food was exquisite. He personally served me a slice of fu rong chicken. Su Xing, great, you have made a great contribution this time. Oh. What reward do you want? I put down my chopsticks. I thought very carefully. Can you replace that rosewood big bed in the side hall with the hard plank bed that the servant used to have? The bed is too soft and the servant's back hurts when sleeping. Your Majesty, he held a wine cup and looked at me for a long time. Finally he sighed. Su Xing. You really are. Really, what, really a wonder. I grinned. Thank you for your praise, Your Majesty. Anime life returned to peace. Life returned to peace. I still lived in the side hall of the Qingqin Palace and slept on the specially made hard plank bed by the Imperial Household Department. The Imperial Kitchen made delicious food for me in various ways. It's just that the Emperor's gaze towards me is becoming stranger and stranger. Brother, sometimes he looked at me like an unsolvable puzzle. Sister, sometimes with a smile of helplessness. Autumn hunt. Sister, the royal hunting grounds were filled with fluttering banners and neighing horses. The Emperor was in high spirits. Brother, the Emperor was in high spirits. He rode his horse and rushed into the depths of the hunting grounds. I was wrapped in a thick fox fur and huddled in a corner of the viewing platform, holding a hand warmer and dozing off. I had no interest in such violent activities. Suddenly, a series of urgent hoofbeats approached from afar, accompanied by panicked shouts. Protect His Majesty! Protect His Majesty! The Emperor is in danger! Brother Anime, protect His Majesty! Protect His Majesty! The Emperor is in danger! The whole place erupted in an uproar. The Empress stood up in shock. The ministers panicked. The commander of the Imperial Guard immediately assembled troops to rescue him. The scene was chaotic. I was woken up by the crowd's exclamations. Sleepy-eyed, what happened? A palace maid next to me, her face pale with fear, stammered in reply. Kai Ren, Your Majesty. His Majesty was attacked in the depths of the hunting grounds. It seems to be a great beast. Great beast, a tiger. My heart skipped a beat. My sleepiness vanished and I subconsciously began to calculate rapidly with my fingers in my sleeve. My fingertips were ice cold. The depths of the hunting grounds. The dense forest. Dense forest. The Emperor held his long bow, facing a giant, clearly enraged, a fierce tiger with white stripes on its forehead. The tiger growled, its fangs bared. The horse beneath him pawed the ground restlessly. Just a moment of carelessness sent him tumbling to the ground. The accompanying guards were scattered. The situation was critical. The tiger seemed to have lost its patience. Its hind legs tensed, about to pounce. The Emperor gripped the golden bow in his hand, his eyes sharp, ready to fight to the death. At this critical moment, one Emperor, don't move. A panting, slightly hoarse female voice suddenly rang out. Everyone was stunned. The tiger also paused. Its fierce beastly eyes turned towards the source of the sound. I saw that somehow I had passed through the chaotic guards and run to the very front. My hair was disheveled, my fox fur cloak askew, clutching something tightly in my hand. It looked like dry grass and a few withered branches, looking both wild and comical. Talent Su, danger, retreat quickly. The captain of the guards shouted anxiously. The Emperor was also shocked and angry. Su, stop fooling around and retreat. But I acted as if I hadn't heard, my eyes fixed on the fierce tiger, then quickly scanned the Emperor and the terrain around him. The fingers in my sleeve calculating even faster. The 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, water. It's not right. It's Shen hour now, I muttered to myself, as the fierce tiger completely lost its patience and let out a deafening roar. About to pounce at that moment, I moved not backward, but rushed forward 2 steps. Under everyone's horrified gaze, the bundle of messy dry grass and withered branches in my hand, with all my might, towards the tiger's flank, an inconspicuous dirt slope with a few clumps of low bushes. I threw it fiercely towards it. Go. The dry grass and withered branches scattered, fluttering in the wind. Some even landed on the tiger's head. The tiger seemed stunned by this sudden, harmless attack. It shook its massive head and let out a low growl. The ferocity in its beastly eyes intensified, clearly completely enraged. It abandoned the emperor in front of it. Its massive body turned towards me, lunging at me with a Xing Feng. "Talent, be careful!" Exclamations erupted. The emperor's eyes were about to burst. He drew an arrow ready to shoot. At this moment of life and death, a sudden change occurred. The tiger, halfway through its pounce, suddenly, without warning, plummeted downwards, as if pulled by an invisible immense force. A muffled thud, accompanied by the tiger's enraged and pained roar. Its enormous body, actually, sank directly into the dirt slope where I had thrown the dry grass. Dust flew, the ground collapsed, revealing a huge black pit. Came the angry yet slightly terrified roars and struggles of a fierce tiger, and the bone-cracking sounds that made one's teeth ache. Everyone was stunned, looking at the suddenly appeared large pit, looking at the tiger struggling futilely in the pit, then looking at the person standing by the pit, patting their chest, with a face that said, "You scared me to death." The expression of me. Silence fell. Only the unwilling roars of the tiger at the bottom of the pit. Later I found out that place was a large trap abandoned by the previous dynasty, specifically used to hunt large fierce beasts. Over the years, it was covered by thick fallen leaves and loose soil. Only some low shrubs grew on the surface. It looked like an ordinary dirt slope. I threw dry grass and dead branches, purely calculating the direction and timing, to show the tiger a clear path. The dust settled. The emperor, protected by his guards, walked to the edge of the pit, looking at the tiger at the bottom of the pit, its leg broken, and on the verge of death. Then looking at me covered in dust, with messy hair. His eyes were complex and indescribable. Awakening. Your servant is here. That grass you threw. Oh. I scratched my head. Your servant calculated that there seemed to be a pit there, so I tried it. He was silent for a long time. Finally he only uttered 2 words and returned to the palace. After the scare in the hunting ground, the atmosphere in Qingqin Palace was a bit subtle. The emperor's gaze towards me held a bit more scrutiny, and a trace of indescribable apprehension. He no longer let me live in the side hall, but bestowed a separate palace garden, named Jing'an Residence. Not too close, not too far from his sleeping quarters. The specifications far exceeded the allowance for a mere concubine. Gifts poured in like a stream. Brocades and silks, jewels and rare treasures piled up the storerooms. But I was indirectly isolated, except for the eunuchs delivering things. Few people came. I enjoyed the leisure. Every day in the large courtyard of Jing'an Residence, I basked in the sun and snacked on seeds, studying the new pastries from the imperial kitchen. Occasionally I would think of the hard plank bed in the side hall of Qingqin Palace. I saw the emperor again. 3 months later. The winter plum blossoms in Jing'an Residence were in full bloom. Their faint fragrance wafted. He came alone, treading on the snow, without any attendants. I was sitting under the corridor wrapped in a blanket, holding a hand warmer and watching the snow. Life was quite pleasant. His voice was devoid of emotion. "Thanks to His Majesty," I replied lazily. He sat down on the stone bench next to me. He didn't seem to mind the cold stone bench. Awakening. I've thought for a long time. Thought about what? What do you really want? I turned my head to look at him. Snowflakes fell on his shoulders. Black hair and a yellow dragon robe made him look a bit weary. What this servant wants, I smiled, has always been very simple. What is it? To live, eat well and sleep well. I started counting on my fingers, and preferably be left alone. He looked at me with deep eyes. That's all. Do you know? He paused. How many people wish they had your talent? If it were used for Your Majesty, I interrupted him, my tone serious. Fortune-telling is like a sword, it can save people if used well, and harm oneself and others if used poorly. This servant is timid, afraid of shortening my life, and even more afraid of trouble. I just want to be a salted fish basking in the sun. He was silent, looking at the pure white snow in the courtyard, and the bright red plum blossoms. He remained silent for a long time. Spring arrived. An imperial decree of enfeoffment shocked the harem. Consort Su, with her gentle and virtuous nature and inner grace, is hereby enfeoffed as Empress and will reside in the central palace, in the tranquil abode. The eunuch's sharp voice delivering the decree still echoed I knelt on the ground a little stunned. Empress me. That position rumored to require ruling the empire. And managing the 6 palaces a tiring and arduous task. Your ladyship, receive the decree. The eunuch delivering the decree reminded me in a low voice. I came back to my senses. Looking at the roll of imperial yellow decree, it felt like a hot potato. That eunuch. Your ladyship, please instruct me. Can I refuse the decree? The eunuch delivering the decree's legs went weak. He almost knelt down. Your ladyship, speak with caution, speak with caution. The phoenix coronet and robes were incredibly heavy. I, wearing dozens of pounds of attire, was like a puppet. Being manipulated through the enthronement ceremony. Accepting the homage of all officials and the consorts of the 6 palaces. Consort Lu, formerly the noble consort, kneeling below, her eyes were poisoned. And filled with deep helplessness. The ceremony ended. Returning to the even more magnificent Phoenix Palace, I was so tired that I collapsed directly onto the huge canopy bed. Quick, help me take this off. The palace maids, suppressing their laughter, helped me remove the heavy headdress with their many hands. In the evening His Majesty arrived. He was wearing casual clothes. And waved to dismiss all the palace staff. In the vast sleeping quarters, only the 2 of us remained. How does it feel, he asked. I rubbed my sore neck. My neck feels like it's going to break. He chuckled and walked behind me. His warm fingers gently pressed on the back of my neck. With just the right amount of pressure, I closed my eyes comfortably. Why me? I asked the question I had been thinking about for a day. His fingers paused for a moment. Because you're lazy. Ah, because you're afraid of trouble. Because you just want to be a salted fish. He continued, his voice low. Awakening my empire is too vast. The harem is too deep. I need an empress. Someone who won't stir up trouble. Someone who won't form factions. Someone who won't meticulously plan to give birth to a prince to seize power. Even, the hand on my shoulder tightened slightly. Preferably an empress who doesn't even want this throne too much. Only then can I be at ease. Only then can this harem truly be quiet. I lay on the soft brocade quilt in silence. So what he valued was precisely the nature of my salted fish. Being desireless and seeking nothing was the most reassuring pawn for him to balance the harem and stabilize the court. So I said dejectedly, your servant, this concubine is just here to guard the house. He chuckled, you can say that. Then I turned over and looked at him. Your Majesty, let's negotiate. The Empress duties. Can I find someone to do them for me? He raised an eyebrow. For example, managing the 6 palaces and talking with the concubines. Presiding over sacrificial ceremonies. I started counting on my fingers. It's best not to involve me. The smile in his eyes deepened. You can, really? A king's word is his bond. He leaned closer. His breath brushed past my ear. You only need to do one thing. What thing? Stay well. Lie down. Eat well and sleep well. Don't worry about anything. I smiled and extended my finger. Deal. From then on, a strange phenomenon appeared in the harem. The Empress was always ill and confined to her palace. The imperial seal was handed over to the virtuous consort who was reliable and childless. The affairs of the 6 palaces were delegated to the capable consort de. As for the disputes among the concubines over favor and jealousy, they were all left to the emperor to deal with. I was only responsible for appearing at major events that required my presence each year. Wearing the heavy imperial crown. To be a mascot for a while. Then I would quickly retreat to my Fenji palace. To continue my salted fish endeavors. The imperial kitchen racked their brains to develop new dishes. Because the Empress was their #1 taste tester. The emperor would visit Fenji Palace every few days. Sometimes he would come to sit after finishing his memorials. And have a cup of tea I brewed. Actually, it was tea brewed by the palace maids. Sometimes he would simply lie on my specially made imperial concubine couch with thick cushions at the other end. Read a book or take a nap. We rarely spoke. Each busy with our own affairs. Yet there was a strange harmony in the atmosphere. Like 2 salted fish that didn't interfere with each other. Occasionally there were times when action had to be taken. For example, Consort Lu had reached her period of eligibility for promotion. But her rank could no longer be raised. Her family was also restless. They had forcibly occupied civilian land in their hometown and caused a death. The aggrieved party had come to the capital to file a complaint. Ambushed by the Lu family on the way. The news was delivered to me by Consort Xian. I sighed as Consort Lu came to pay her respects. It was actually to probe for information. Casually mentioned. I heard the mass grave in the western suburbs has been restless lately. Someone always hears crying in the middle of the night. Sister, brother, Consort Lu, sister. Anime, your fate is light. Your fate is light. Sister, you must not go out at night these few days. Consort Leah's face turned green on the spot. She was so scared that she fell ill after returning. Wrote a letter back to her family overnight. Don't know what she wrote. The Liu family quickly restrained themselves. Not only returned the land, but also unprecedentedly compensated a large sum of money. The victim's family took the money and left for another place. A potential major case was averted. For example, the general at the border returned triumphantly, his merits overshadowing the emperor. Someone secretly reported that he was hoarding dragon robes and plotting rebellion. The emperor was furious but had no solid evidence. He was also wary of his prestige in the army. At a loss, he came to Fenji Palace with a worried frown. I was playing cards with the palace maids. Lost so much that my face was covered with paper strips. He waved his hand, dismissed the servants, and sat opposite me. Empress. I was busy studying the cards in my hand. Do a divination for me. What to divine? Divining loyalty and treachery. I threw out a card. Cannot divine. Why? The human heart is hidden and it cannot be accurately divined. I didn't even look up. However, Your Majesty, if you are really worried, what about that general? Why not invite his wife to the palace for tea? The emperor's eyes flickered. 3 days later, the general's wife was summoned to the palace by imperial decree. I hosted a small banquet. We just chatted about everyday matters. Asked about the scenery of his hometown and the hardships of the border. The general's wife was a straightforward person. She spoke of the difficulties faced by the soldiers on the border and when she became emotional. She shed tears several times. When parting, I casually asked, "Husband, the general has been in the harsh cold region for many years. Does the daily injury still flare up often? I heard there is a kind of white fox fur in the north. It is the most warming and nourishing. I happen to have 2 pieces of excellent quality in my coup. I'll have someone send them to the general later." The general's wife was deeply grateful. The next day, that meritorious general personally escorted more than a dozen large carts to the palace gate. Inside the carts were treasures from enemy countries that he had captured over the years of war, intended to be kept as souvenirs, and a sincere memorial of repentance, stating that he had privately kept war spoils and was uneasy, willing to offer them all to the national treasury to atone for his crime. The emperor looked at the mountains of treasures and the memorial. He sighed after a long time. Issued an edict to infeff him as Duke of Dingguo and bestow upon him a golden tablet with ironclad oath. A potential bloody storm was averted invisibly. The days flowed by uneventfully. I was in the position of Empress. Lying down for 10 years. Became the Empress of Daliang since its founding. The least like an Empress. And the most peaceful Empress. The harem under my laissez-faire rule. The surface maintained a strange peace. The concubines were used to not being managed by the Empress. No one managed their vying for favor either. Instead, there was less scheming and plotting. The court was also accustomed to the Empress being a figurehead. This saved countless efforts to curry favor with the harem. It was another warm afternoon. I was lying on a rocking chair in the back garden of Fenji Palace. A thin blanket was draped over me. There was iced plum juice. And a plate of freshly baked lotus pastries so crisp they crumbled. The years were peaceful and I was content as a salted fish. A young eunuch tiptoed over. "Reporting to your ladyship. Consort Xian's ladyship sent someone to ask about the specifications and list for the Grand Empress Dowager's 60th birthday next month." I didn't even lift my eyelids, waving my hand. Let Consort Xian decide herself. Just add 30% to the usual amount. The young eunuch ran off. Not long after, a young palace maid ran over. "Your ladyship, Consort de ladyship says that the monthly allowances for the 6 palaces next quarter should be distributed by Consort de according to the ledger. If there's not enough, find the head of the Imperial Household Department. Don't look for me." Yes. The footsteps faded away. The world was finally quiet. I sighed with satisfaction. I picked up a lotus pastry and took a bite. The crisp fragrance filled my mouth, sweet but not greasy. The Imperial kitchen's skills were improving. The afterglow of the sunset gilded the glazed tiles with a golden edge. A gentle breeze carried a faint floral scent. The rocking chair swayed gently. I closed my eyes, feeling this stolen half-day of leisure. The corners of my mouth turned up unconsciously. Who said a salted fish couldn't win by lying down? Look, haven't I already gone from a small broken courtyard by the cold palace to the most noble position for women in the world? Although this position is a bit daunting. It's good to have food, drink, and servants. And not have to work. It's simply the peak of a salted fish's life. Footsteps sounded again. Very light and steady. Carrying the familiar scent of dragon saliva, stopping beside me. A shadow fell. I was too lazy to open my eyes. "The Emperor has finished approving the memorials today." A deep voice sounded from above. Did those old men not argue? They did. About the canal appropriation. Oh. Did they win the argument? I let them argue enough. Cut the budget by 30%. If they argue again, I'll cut it all and they can all shut up. I chuckled. Your Majesty is wise. He seemed to have sat down on a nearby stone bench. There was silence for a while. Awakening. Because. Is being the Empress comfortable for you? I opened one eye. The golden light of the sunset fell on him, softening his features. Fine lines had appeared at the corners of his eyes. Comfortable. I nodded honestly. Except for the phoenix crown being too heavy, everything else is quite good. He chuckled. I sometimes wonder what? If I wronged you by pushing you into this position. I sat up. Stretched out with a big yawn. My bones made a satisfying little crackle. Am I wronged or not? I picked up the sour plum drink and took a big satisfying gulp. The icy sour and sweet refreshment soothed my soul. Then facing him, I gave him a big sincere smile. Your Majesty. Look. I pointed to the brilliant sunset clouds in the sky. Pointed to the blooming peonies in the courtyard. Pointed to the exquisite pastries on the small table. And finally pointed to the soft precious brocade on my body. No need to wake up early for morning greetings. No need to scheme with others. No need to deal with those messy account books and lawsuits. Eat when I want and people deliver money and things on time. I patted the specially made rosewood rocking chair, which was padded with 7 layers of soft cushions beneath me. With a contented sigh, this life is simply tailor-made for a lazy fish. This servant, no. This concubine is lying down so comfortably. Your Majesty looked at me for a long time. The golden glow of the setting sun fell into his eyes. Like melting warm gold. Finally he also smiled. In that smile there was relief, ease. And a hint of comforting warmth, as if a burden had been lifted. As long as you're comfortable. He picked up the last lotus crisp from my plate and took a bite. Then I can rest assured. The evening breeze was gentle and dusk gathered. The glazed tiles of Fenji Palace shone with a warm lustrous light in the last ray of sunset. Like a lazy fish that has finally found the most comfortable shallow water. It lazily turned over, basking in the sun and blowing bubbles. A long life and winning without effort is quite good.